Hello, good afternoon, and a warm welcome to Time with PIAC. Today we take a look at a very critical topic, that is the role of empowered citizens in ensuring that there is enough transparency and accountability in the management and use of petroleum revenues. We reckon the importance of getting citizens informed about how petroleum revenues are being used and whether it actually conforms with provisions in the law to ensure that the use of the revenues benefited all citizens. The Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, in line with its second mandate, has been providing a platform for citizens to engage and to be briefed on how petroleum revenues have been managed and utilized. Today, we take the conversation a step further to look at how we can better engage citizens, how we can inform them to ensure that they are empowered so that they can become agents of change to ensure that petroleum revenues benefited everyone. Remember, this session is very interactive, so you can send in your questions and comments as the discussion progresses, and we'll respond to them in the comment section. I'm your host, Jessica A. Champon. My guest today is a member of PIAC, and he represents civil society groups. And today he brings some perspectives from civil society to the conversation and how we can empower citizens to just not be observers, but become agents of change so that in future we can actually see the benefits of petroleum revenues. Mr. Richard Elima is already seated. He's a PIAC member, and this is his first time on Time with PIAC. So we give him a very special welcome to Time with PIAC. Hello, Mr. Elima.
Hello.
Good afternoon, and you're welcome to Time with PIAC.
Thank you very much.
Today we are talking about a very interesting topic, the role of empowered citizens. But what does it really mean when we talk about empowered citizens? Are there some citizens that are not empowered?
Yes, I think the word empowered is used a lot these days. You hear people talk about empowered citizens, empowered women, empowered gender, whatever. But when we talk of empowered citizens in the context of petroleum revenue management, we are looking at citizens who are aware, who are sensitive, and who know the petroleum revenue management issues, and who are ready to be involved in the management of petroleum revenues in the country. So it is not just about knowing, it's about the ability to take action, to be involved in the advocacy to ensure there's transparency and accountability in the utilization of petroleum revenues.
Okay, so now let's narrow the conversation down to petroleum revenue management and use. How would you describe the importance of actually getting citizens involved in the management and use of petroleum revenues? Because we know that the law is clear on institutions, what they are supposed to do, how the revenues are supposed to be shared. How relevant are the citizens then?
I think it is important for every Ghanaian to know that they own the resources. The Constitution is very clear that every natural resource in all its forms belongs to the state. In fact, belongs to the people. And we've only given the president trusteeship over these natural resources. So the petroleum we have, the gold we have, the bauxite we have, the manganese we have, all the natural resources that we have belong to the people. And if a resource belongs to me, I have a duty to ensure that whoever it has been given to in terms of trusteeship is being a very good steward. So it is absolutely important that Ghanaians get empowered to hold the government accountable, because we have given government the power to hold these minerals or the natural resources in trust for us. So occasionally we need to go back and be asking questions, how the management is faring. So it's a primary responsibility of every Ghanaian to hold government accountable.
We often hear that PIAC is a citizens-led institution. I'm sure in your public education, in your advocacy, you keep reinforcing that line that PIAC is a citizens-led institution. What exactly does that mean?
Citizen-led in the sense that the committee doesn't have any government representative. It is made up of only citizen groups citizen groups as in groups that are not aligned to government in any way. So you look at the landscape, the citizens landscape, and we have different groups, all represented on PIAC. So we have the Journalists Association, we have the Ghana Bar Association, we have civil society groups, we have National House of Chiefs, we have the Association of Queen Mothers, we have the Trades Union Congress, we have the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, etc., etc. All these groups represent one citizen group or the other. So every Ghanaian belongs to at least one of these groups. Even if you don't identify with any of these professional groups, you have a chief in your village, and that chief belongs to the House of Chiefs. So indirectly, you are also represented. So when we talk of a citizen-led group, we use that expression as opposed to a group that is usually directed by government, a group that has its origins from government. But this doesn't have any origin from government. It is only a statutory body established by law, which doesn't have any government representative at all.
Okay, so we are still on PIAC and then citizens-led. So we realize that looking at the membership of PIAC, we have some level of citizens representation across, right? So are there specific measures or interventions that PIAC has in place to ensure that these people are actually like informed, they get information, and then as a result of that, they become empowered?
Yeah, I mean, if you read the vision of PIAC, the mandate we have, it all revolves around creating a platform for people to engage on the utilization of petroleum revenues. I mean, all the other two, in addition to this one, they all revolve around this middle one, which is creating that platform. And over the years, PIAC has taken this mandate very, very seriously. I mean, we are always out there in the public, making sure people get to understand petroleum revenue management issues and so on. So first of all, we have our regional engagements. We select regions where we go. We visit the Regional Coordinating Council. We visit identifiable groups and inspect our projects. And then finally, and most importantly to me, are the public forums, which we have. So at each of these regional forums, we have public forums. And at these public forums, you have a cross-section of Ghanaians. I mean, people representing all classes of people coming in. Persons with disability, women groups, youth groups, students, trades, market women, mechanics, etc., all coming to this public forum. And PIAC creates that avenue for them to ask questions, for them to be critical about our work, so that we also get the opportunity to respond. We also take their feedback back to the Secretariat, where we incorporate them in our work. Apart from that, there's also the district engagement, which is also very similar to the regional engagements. And so one other interesting part of it is when we meet these tertiary institutions. We believe in the maxim that catch them young and they will forever be yours. So we meet the students, we explain our work to them, we sensitize them on what petroleum revenue management is all about, and then we take feedback from them as well. Then apart from the district engagements, we have our media engagements. You know, the media is a very powerful tool these days. Almost every Ghanaian listens to radio or television, I mean, at a point in time. So we have a deliberate effort. We have a concerted effort to ensure we engage the media in everywhere that we go and in whatever we do. So we have specific programs for the media. We meet them after launching our reports. We meet them, we take them through the report, we sensitize them so that they can then carry the message forward. And then also ensure that they also spread the message and continue the sensitization of the general populace. And then at each of our programs, of course, we have a media presence. So if it is project inspections, we have the media following us, and then they carry whatever we capture. So a few days ago, I'm sure Ghanaians have been reading a lot about PIAC. It's because we were on project inspections and the media were kind enough to carry the story throughout.
So if you are just joining us, this is still Time with PIAC, and today we are looking at the role of empowered citizens in ensuring that there's transparency and accountability in the management and use of petroleum revenues to ensure that the wealth generated from petroleum production benefited all citizens. My guest is Mr. Richard Elima, a member of PIAC representing civil society groups, and he's been telling us what PIAC has been doing to ensure that citizens are empowered. Going forward, Mr. Elima, are there success stories or other places that we can cite as citizens getting empowered, and as a result of that, we've been able to see some level of change?
Yes. We were in the Volta region a few days ago, and I was surprised to meet one assemblyman who happened to be very, very empowered. He took us to a project site, and he was telling us that, oh, this road was constructed with petroleum revenue. And I was surprised, so I asked him, how do you know? And apparently he had been at one of PIAC sessions. So that for me is a classic success story that we can talk of. At the end of the day, when the Ghanaian public is empowered, when they begin to ask questions, when they begin to take very critical positions in their relationship with government with regards to petroleum revenue management, then we know our work is halfway done. So the biggest success story for me is the fact that Ghanaians are now beginning to discuss petroleum revenue management issues. These days, you tune into some radio stations and there's a whole discussion on petroleum revenue management. Formerly, people thought it was a very technical area, so nobody wanted to talk about it, but now they talk about it. Again, PIAC has successfully highlighted some key issues that have been taken on board now. So in terms of reforms, we are now looking at the ministry, for instance, making an attempt to label projects so that Ghanaians will know that, oh, this project was constructed with petroleum revenue. That, if it happens, I know it's on the drawing boards now, if it happens, that will be a major breakthrough for us. And then also, when we get to project inspection sites, we are increasingly seeing people being very frank and straightforward with us. They will tell you the quality of this road is bad. They will tell you straight ahead. What gave them that power? It is the empowerment that we give them. So these are the success stories that have come from our engagements. And we hope that as we continue doing these engagements, we will see more of these success stories.
Mr. Elima, you represent CSOs on PIAC. And I'm sure when it comes to advocacy and those things, we realize that civil society is always at the forefront of these kind of advocacy. As a constituent of PIAC, do you lend any support for citizens who want to do advocacy or citizens who need information? Do you play any role in that regard?
Yes. Once people get to know that I represent CSOs on PIAC, anytime there's a program that involves being the broader natural resource sector, I am invited. I have received many invitations to come and give presentations on Ghana's petroleum industry generally. I've spoken to student groups on petroleum revenue management issues. I've spoken to radio stations. Even this morning I was on a radio station talking about petroleum revenue management issues in Kumasi. So I get to engage with my constituents a lot. They may not come in a formal kind of way, but I do engagements all the time. And CSOs happen to be one of the most active groups, active constituents within PIAC. And I hope to continue with that zeal that we have for the work of PIAC. You remember that a lot of the reforms that we've seen in the petroleum sector were championed by CSOs. In fact, the Petroleum Revenue Management Act itself was a baby of civil society groups. Most people don't know, but it was civil society groups that literally drafted the law and created PIAC. So we have been at the forefront all these years, and we hope to continue strengthening this bond that we have with PIAC.
From a CSO perspective, we know that citizens demanding for accountability is not going to be a walk in the park. Are there some critical challenges that we envisage that citizens would face, even though we expect that they'll be empowered to demand for that accountability that we are all looking for?
Yeah, sometimes I see there's a misdirected zeal. Misdirected in the sense that they do not have relevant information, but still they want to act. So we've had some citizen groups in some areas in Ghana who got some information, half-baked information, and wanted to act upon it and create chaos. But some of us have had to step in through some radio conversations to set the record straight. So, for instance, there was a case about some groups in the Western region who felt that they were not being treated well in terms of petroleum revenue allocations to the region. So we had to step in and then set the record straight and then calm tempers. So I think things like that also do happen. So the biggest challenge had to do with information. It's all about information. Once we get the information available to them, once we package the information in a way that is that they can then assimilate and be able to use the information, I'm sure our work will be done.
Beyond the identified challenges, we still want citizens to be empowered. So what different thing can PIAC and to a large extent CSOs do for us to be able to achieve this objective that we have set for ourselves?
We continue doing what we are doing. Probably intensify it. I noticed that, yes, we go on the regional and district engagements. We do more of these engagements, but I think we can do more of the public forums, probably further decentralize it. We usually have it at one center and invite everybody there. Probably it's time to go down to their level. It's time to hold megaphones and go to the markets and talk to the market women. It's time to have conversations under the baobab tree. It's time to have conversations with youth groups who converge at places called Parliament. I don't know whether it exists in this part of the country, but there are youth groups who sit somewhere and they call themselves Parliament, and all they do is to discuss current affairs. These are groups we can target. Go down there. A member or two can go there, talk to them about petroleum revenue management issues. And I'm sure once we begin to get that, after a year or two, you will see the message spreading. Because these are the core people. These are the people who need the message. Usually when you have the forums at centralized locations, some of them don't come because they are not invited. But when you take the message to them, then you catch them in their own environment and the conversation becomes very lively and easy.
Let me play the devil's advocate here. We realize that PIAC is more like an elitist group. So we always see you engaging the people at the top, and then those of us down there are left behind. Is this something that you, as a committee, you would want to focus on going forward so that we can help more citizens empowered? Because I'm not sure your public forum is able to accommodate a lot of people. It's just some few representations.
Yes. To the extent that our public forums are held at centralized locations, it's also logical to assume that due to budgetary reasons, we can't have everybody there. And again, due to space, we may also not be able to have everybody in a district or municipality over there. But we have discussed it at the committee level. The last time we went on a regional engagement, when we came back, it was one of the key feedbacks that we got, and we put it before plenary. So very soon, we will develop a strategy to get down to the least of the Ghanaian. I mean, the person who sees himself as the least. We should be able to get down to that person. As I said, let's get the message to them. It shouldn't be demand-driven. It should be supply-driven. We have to supply the information. Get to them wherever they are. We need to adopt the Pentecost-style evangelism, and then get to them. Whether you like it or not, you'll be converted. I think that should be the strategy. Get down to them, get to the barbering shops, get to the salons, get to the marketplaces, get to everywhere that we can get to. So when we go on our regular regional or district tours, for instance, we can set aside a day. Then we disperse. a team goes to meet barbers, a team goes to meet market women, a team goes to meet Dikru or whatever. So we disperse and then make sure the message gets down. At the end of the day, we would have reached many, many more people than if we had had a centralized meeting.
So we realized that PIAC is trying its best, is doing something, but citizens still have to be empowered. How accessible is PIAC and the information it generates to the public? Because we reckon that for citizens to be empowered, they need to get information. How accessible is PIAC and the information that it generates on petroleum revenue management?
Unfortunately, PIAC is only accessible to the elite in society. I mean, it's very easy for a university lecturer to sit behind a computer and then log into our website and then read about what PIAC is doing. It's very easy for a banker to read a story about PIAC, and because he or she wants to know more, go to our Facebook page and be looking at what is happening there. But it is not that easy to get Nanaya from a village called Amwem near Obuasi to go on Facebook. It's not easy to get her to do that. So the issue is, how do we get Nanaya and people like her to be interested in our work? And one way of doing this is what I've just said. Let's get to them. Let's explain what we do to them. Once they understand what we do and they get to understand that it is to their own interest, I'm sure they will then be doing the fighting on our behalf. One thing I keep telling people is that PIAC's work goes beyond just the 13 members. It's a work that every Ghanaian has to be interested in. Every Ghanaian. It is not just for 13 human beings who cannot be everywhere at the same time. Every Ghanaian has to be interested because the resources belong to every Ghanaian, not just the 13 people. So once people understand that the natural resource belongs to them, they should get involved, hold government accountable, hold whichever institution is receiving petroleum revenue accountable, and also make sure they get a part of the money. When we went to the Volta region, we made them aware that even though the resource is located in the Western region, it belongs to them as well. Because the framers of the Constitution made it in such a way that every natural resource belongs to all Ghanaians. So just as the gold in Obuasi is constructing flyovers in Accra, the oil in the Western region can also construct a school building in Ho or Amfoiga. So that is how it works. And until you get involved and begin to ask questions, you may be left behind. And that will not be a pleasant situation.
Indeed, if you are left behind, it will not be a pleasant situation. But drawing down the curtain on our conversation for today, we know that there are plans to start some exploration work in the Volta Basin. That means more production, more revenues, more work to be done, more advocacy work for PIAC to do. What should be done differently going forward?
What should be done is not to wait for oil production to start and then we start running after the people to tell them that, look, this is what is going to happen. I believe this is the best time to reach the people. This is the best time to empower them. This is the best time to arm them with the knowledge so that as the various actors in the Volta Basin project, as the various actors begin to engage the people will then be able to also ask very critical questions in order not to be shortchanged. Mind you, this is not like what we have already. This is an onshore project, and onshore projects engender their own forms of problems, challenges, environmental challenges, social problems, and so on. So the challenges will be totally different from the challenges that the Western region people are having. So it is important that PIAC steps in now. Let's start engaging them. Probably let's start doing more engagements in the Volta region, around the Kita area which will be more impacted. So that once they are empowered, they will then be able to ask the government more critical questions in order for things to be done right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard Elima, PIAC member representing civil society groups, for joining us on this edition of PIAC and for providing some insights on this topic. We are glad you could make it to this session. And thank you all for joining us for this edition. Remember, PIAC remains open to all your questions and comments, so you can reach out to us via any of our channels, and you can also send us a WhatsApp on 055 441 6544. You need information to be empowered, so reach out to us while we also do our part to get the information across to you. Until we come your way again next month with another edition, let's keep the conversation going. I'm your host, Jessica Echampon. Do have a lovely afternoon.